The Aberrant, a cinematic tale of love, survival, and secrets, realistic sci-fi drama. The Sky That Broke Open. The night the sky tore open above Ridgeway, nobody in the small Colorado town understood what they were witnessing. Years later, survivors would describe the event with different words: a rift, a wound, a doorway, but the feeling was always the same. Something vast, something ancient, something not meant for human eyes had stared back at them from the heavens, and for a moment, it felt like it recognized them. Alex Warren was the first to see it. He had been out on the county road, camera strapped around his neck, shooting long-exposure photographs of the Perseid meteor shower. Photography was the only ritual he'd preserved from the life he lived before. Before the divorce, before the move back to his hometown, before his career fell apart like dust in his hands. He was adjusting his tripod when the meteor shower suddenly stopped. Just stopped. The stars seemed to freeze mid-fall. The wind died. The world fell silent. A strange pressure rolled over the landscape, bending the tall grass like an invisible giant exhaled across the field. Alex straightened slowly, hand lowering from his camera as every hair on his arms rose. "What the hell?" he whispered. Then the sky split. It wasn't a flash of light. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't any natural phenomenon he'd ever seen. It was as if a long, thin seam running across the night sky had been pulled apart from the inside, revealing a blinding white slit, like a celestial wound tearing open. A circular object slid through it. Silent. Seamless. Larger than any aircraft Alex had photographed in military airshows. Its surface rippled like liquid metal. Not reflective, not matte. Something in between, something that seemed to distort reality around it. Alex's breath hitched. The object hovered, rotating slightly, casting no visible light yet illuminating the world below with a soft bluish glow. And then his camera fired on its own. Click, 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 click. He hadn't touched the shutter. Alex backed away, chest tightening. The pressure in the air intensified, filling his ears with a low hum like distant cello strings. His eyes watered. "What are you?" he whispered. The object responded. The hum shifted, deepening into something that felt like a voice, not heard but felt, vibrating through the bones of his skull. Alex staggered to his knees, gripping his head as a sudden surge of images flashed behind his eyes. A desert, burned ground, a spiral pattern carved into sand, a metal structure buried beneath red dust. He didn't understand any of it. The object pulsed once, blue to white. Then it vanished. Not flew, not blinked, not teleported. It simply folded out of existence, as if someone flipped a dimensional switch. The instant it disappeared, the wind returned violently, howling through the valley. The grasses snapped upright. Crickets resumed chirping. The meteor shower resumed, as if the universe pretended nothing had happened. But something had. Something that changed everything. Alex crawled toward his camera. His hands shook so violently, he barely managed to lift it. The screen displayed the last automatic shot. He frowned. The picture was wrong, not blurred, not exactly. Instead, it showed a distorted shape, like the object was bending the pixels around itself. But the strangest part was in the bottom corner. 3 thin, elongated shadows. Not human, not symmetrical, as if something had been standing right behind him, watching him. Alex stumbled backward, breath turning to ice. No, that's impossible. His phone vibrated in his pocket, nearly stopping his heart. He fumbled it out, unknown number, at 1:14 a.m. He answered with shaking fingers. "Hello?" a voice spoke. Not robotic, not mechanical, not quite human. "Alexander Warren," it said. "Do not return to the field. Do not attempt to upload the photographs. Do not speak of what you witnessed." Alex froze. "Who is this?" Silence. Then, "We are already on our way." Click. The call ended. Alex stared at the phone as fear spread through his chest like frost. He turned to grab his equipment, just in time to see headlights cutting through the darkness from the far end of the isolated county road. 2 black SUVs. No plates. Moving fast. His muscles reacted before his mind did. He sprinted toward the trees, abandoning his tripod, forcing himself into the dense brush and down the hill behind the field. Voices echoed in the distance. "Spread out!" a man barked. "He's close." How did they know? How could they possibly know? Branches tore at Alex's jacket as he pushed deeper into the woods. He tripped, rolled, and finally pressed himself against the trunk of a pine tree, gasping for breath. Blue lights swept over the field as drones zipped overhead. They were searching for him. And not because of trespassing, not because of photography. They wanted the pictures. They wanted the object. They wanted the truth sealed. Alex pressed a hand over his mouth, fighting the panic clawing up his throat. The night felt tight around him, the air too thin. Something rustled to his right. He tensed until a soft glow appeared between the trees. At first, he thought it was another drone's spotlight. But no, it was a figure. Humanoid, tall, at least 7 feet, thin, its skin a faint bioluminescent blue, shifting like liquid light under its translucent surface. Its eyes were black, vast, depthless, and fixed on him. Alex froze. The creature didn't move. It simply watched him with an expression he somehow understood. Recognition. As if it knew him. As if it had been waiting. A faint whisper inside his mind, not through sound, bloomed like a trembling chord. You saw the door, and now the door sees you. The creature turned its head as voices approached, then vanished, silent as mist. Moments later, flashlights pierced the trees. "Warren, come out now!" Alex pressed his back against the bark, heart pounding. His life had changed forever, and the sky above Ridgeway would never be the same. Part 2. The Sky That Watches Back. The sky over Rhyolite Valley had never been silent. Winds carved songs through abandoned mining tunnels, and the shifting sands whispered old secrets. But tonight, the silence was unnatural. Even the insects had stopped. Dr. Elena Mercer stood outside the research trailer, her breath forming thin, ghostly clouds in the cold desert air. She had seen strange things during her 10 years with NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Division, but the transmission they received an hour ago was something else, something alive. A low hum vibrated beneath her boots. She froze. Not again. That same vibration had shaken the valley 2 nights earlier, just before the unknown object streaked across the sky and crash-landed somewhere beyond the ridge. Elena raised her flashlight. A distant rumble, metal scraping against metal, echoed through the desert like a wounded beast trying to rise. Her radio crackled. "Mercer, this is Hale. We've got movement on the ridge. You need to see this." Agent Thomas Hale didn't sound afraid, but Elena knew his tone well. He only spoke like that when he couldn't explain what he was seeing. She jogged toward the black SUV where Hale waited, engine running, headlights off. "Show me," she said. Hale didn't speak. He simply pointed up at the ridge. Elena followed his gesture, and her stomach tightened. It was glowing. A faint column of light, thin, trembling, almost shy, rose upward from behind the ridge like the beam of a lighthouse submerged underwater. Particles shimmered inside it, drifting like embers in a silent fire. "That's where the object went down," Hale whispered. Elena felt her pulse in her throat. "Something's activating." "No," Hale muttered. "Something is waking up." The air suddenly snapped. A pulse of invisible force swept across the valley, rattling the SUV's windows and pushing dust away in a circular ring. Elena grabbed the door for balance. "What the hell was that?" she breathed. Hale was already raising his binoculars. "Focus. Look at the center of the beam." She did, and then she saw it. A silhouette. Humanoid, but not human. Tall, elongated, with limbs too smooth, too symmetrical, as if sculpted by mathematics rather than evolution. It stood perfectly still in the rising column of light. Waiting, watching. The creature lifted its head. Even from this distance, Elena felt something crawling across her mind, a sensation like fingers brushing against her thoughts. She stumbled back, gasping. "You felt that too, didn't you?" Hale said. He wasn't asking, he already knew. Elena nodded, still trying to catch her breath. "It wasn't emotion, it wasn't a message. It was like it was scanning me." Hale's radio hissed violently, then cut to static, all frequencies dead. The creature stepped forward, slowly, moving past the edge of the beam. For the first time, moonlight touched its body. Its skin wasn't skin. It shimmered, translucent, layered, pulsating with faint bioluminescent lines that ran across its frame like circuitry grown from organic tissue. Hale exhaled in disbelief. That thing is not from any biology course." Elena swallowed hard. "No, it's engineered." The creature tilted its head again. The air around it warped, distorted, like heat rising from asphalt. And then, it vanished. Not with a flash, not with a sound. It simply folded out of the world like a shadow being erased. Hale lowered his binoculars and whispered, "It knows we're here." A sudden metallic clang burst from behind them. Elena spun. Her flashlight beam caught the edge of the research trailer. Something had touched it. Scratch marks, fresh ones, ran down the metal surface. 4 long grooves, smooth, precise, parallel, not made by claws, made by intention. Elena whispered, "It's not running from us, it's circling us." Hale drew his weapon. Elena's heartbeat hammered. She knew exactly what was happening. Not a crash, not a lost craft, not a stranded being. This was reconnaissance. And the one thing more terrifying than a hostile extraterrestrial is a curious one. Because curiosity meant intelligence, and intelligence meant it was planning something. The wind shifted. Something moved behind the trailer. Slow, heavy, controlled. Elena backed toward Hale. The desert went still again. Too still. Then a voice, soft, whispered, not through air, through their minds. A single word, "Observe." Elena gasped. Hale doubled over, clutching his head. The voice echoed again, warmer this time, but layered with impossible harmonics. "You are not alone." The beam on the ridge brightened suddenly, a shocking, blinding column of energy, and the sky above it began to split. Not open, split. As if space itself were tearing like fabric. The stars warped, the ridge shook, the valley floor cracked beneath Elena's boots. Hale stared upward in horror. "Elena, tell me I'm not seeing a doorway." Elena could barely whisper, "It's not a doorway." Her eyes widened as the fissure spread wider, revealing darkness beneath. A darkness alive with movement. "It's a summoning." Part 3, the summoning. The sky tore wider. Not with a sound, but with an absence of sound. A hollow swallowing of everything that dared to exist beneath it. Stars twisted into spirals, bending toward the rift, like they were being pulled into a gravity well that shouldn't exist on Earth. Elena shielded her eyes, but she couldn't look away. Inside the widening fissure, something rippled, shapes moving in the darkness, silhouettes drifting like giants beneath deep water. Hale whispered, voice trembling, "Please tell me those aren't ships." Elena's throat felt dry as ash. "They're not moving like machines." The silhouettes unfurled, stretching into enormous fluid geometries, organic yet metallic, alive yet impossibly structured. They pulsed with low-frequency light, colors Elena couldn't name, shifting in ways that made her vision blur and her ears ring. The rift flashed. The desert floor trembled. And then the voice returned. "Observe," but this time it wasn't in their heads. It vibrated through the ground, through the air, through their bones. Elena staggered. Hale dropped to one knee, gripping the sand like it might anchor him to reality. "Is it talking to us?" he gasped. Elena shook her head slowly. "No, it's talking to all of them." She pointed to the valley. Lights, one by one across the dark landscape, dozens, maybe hundreds of tiny white lights ignited. Not from above, but from the ground. "Drones?" Hale asked weakly. "No," Elena said, her voice faint. "They're rising." The lights ascended, lifting from the earth like awakened fireflies. But as they rose higher, their outlines sharpened. Small, silver, insect-like constructs, delicate, autonomous, unmistakably alien. Their wings vibrated at a frequency too high to hear, but Elena felt it, a soft prickling along her skin. They swarmed toward the rift. Dozens, hundreds, a cloud of shimmering machines ascending like metallic pollen. "What are they doing?" Hale whispered. Elena watched, horrified. "They're answering a call." The creature, the humanoid that had vanished earlier, reappeared at the base of the beam, not walking into existence, but phasing into it, like a video buffering into clarity. Its head lifted toward the rift. The valley glowed brighter, and then, as if sensing the two humans watching, it turned. Its luminous, layered eyes met Elena's, and something inside her chest collapsed. Not from fear, from revelation. Images flooded her mind, rapid flashes, impossible to process. Geometric worlds with black oceans, spires of light rising from crystalline landscapes, beings like the one before her, communicating in frequencies, Earth seen from afar as if catalogued, an enormous structure drifting through space like an arc, and a cold, emotionless directive. Preserve what is useful. Study what is unaware. Elena stumbled, gasping for breath. Her vision blurred. "Elena," Hale grabbed her shoulders. "What did it do to you?" She wiped tears she didn't remember crying. "It showed me where it came from, what it wants." "And? They're explorers," she whispered, trembling, but not peaceful. Hale's jaw tightened. "Scouts." "Worse," she breathed. "They're assessors." Hale didn't even get to respond. The ground ruptured. A shockwave blasted outward, sending both of them flying. Sand and debris shot into the air like a volcanic eruption. Elena hit the ground hard and rolled, coughing as dust filled her lungs. The beam collapsed inward. The rift pulsed, then expanded violently. A wave of darkness surged outward, swallowing the stars themselves. Elena felt gravity twist, felt the atoms in the air vibrate with a tone that scraped the inside of her skull. Hale pulled her up. "We have to fall back!" But Elena couldn't move. Something had appeared in the air above the rift, massive, smooth, silent. A structure, not a ship, a presence. As it pushed through the broken sky, its underside reflected neither light nor shadow. It reflected information, patterns that shifted as if it were reading everything it touched. It dwarfed the valley, it dwarfed the mountains, it dwarfed comprehension. Hale's voice shook. "Oh my God!" Elena felt her words escape in a whisper. "That's not a craft." Hale swallowed. "Then what is it?" Elena stared, realizing the truth even as she wished she hadn't. "It's a collector." The rift stabilized beneath it, becoming a swirling well of luminous energy. The small silver constructs, hundreds of them, flew into the structure's underside, disappearing like sparks being inhaled. The creature on the ridge stepped fully into the beam, its body aligning with the shimmering light. Elena's heart pounded. It was returning home. But before it dissolved into the beam, it looked at her one last time. The voice resonated again. But this time, the word was different. "Prepare." The beam vanished. The creature vanished. The collector's structure flickered, and then the entire sky went black. Total, impossible black. Like the stars had been switched off. The desert fell silent. Hale grabbed Elena's arm. "What does prepare mean? Prepare for what?" Elena stared up at the empty sky, her entire body shaking. "For whatever comes next," she whispered, "and I don't think we have much time." Part 4. The daylight blackout. The darkness didn't lift. Not after a second, not after a minute, not after the first hour. It simply remained, thick, absolute, unnatural. Elena and Hale drove through it with the truck's headlights cutting only a few meters ahead, swallowed by the void as if the night itself were alive. The radio spat static. The GPS flickered useless coordinates. Their phones showed no signal, though neither of them had expected anything different. This wasn't a power outage. This was a sky outage. "Please tell me the sun didn't actually disappear," Hale muttered, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "It didn't," Elena said quietly, "but something is blocking it." "You mean like, what? A ship that big?" She shook her head slowly. "No, bigger." Hale didn't reply. He didn't need to, because at that exact moment, they saw it. A faint shimmer across the horizon, not light but distortion, like a heat mirage stretching from edge to edge across the entire sky. A shape too large to comprehend, a veil, a screen, a structure. "Jesus," Hale whispered. "It's covering the entire region." Elena's voice cracked, maybe more. The truck rolled to a stop at the crest of a hill. Below them, the desert stretched out, towns and roads faintly glowing under emergency lights. People were outside, hundreds, maybe thousands, standing in streets, yards, rooftops, all staring at the sky. Some pointed, some prayed, some screamed. Elena stepped out of the truck. The air felt wrong, heavy, humming with an electrical tension that made the hairs on her arms rise. Then, a flicker, a ripple, and suddenly across the dark sky, symbols appeared. Not letters, not numbers, geometric formations, shifting, rotating, pulsing, spirals folding into triangles, lines bending into fractal curves, patterns emerging like living algorithms, a broadcast, a message, but not for them. "They're not communicating with us," Elena whispered. "They're communicating with each other." Hale forced a laugh, but it was hollow. "Fantastic. We're basically watching aliens DM each other in the sky." But Elena wasn't smiling, because as she watched the symbols shift, her head began to pound, deep behind her eyes. A pressure, a burning. Images flashed again. The arc-like collector drifting through space, entire landscapes being scanned, a planet cracked open like an egg, swarms rising like metallic locusts, and Earth, mapped, sliced into grids, marked like a specimen. She staggered, grabbing the truck door for support. "Elena," Hale rushed over. "Hey, stay with me." They're surveying," she gasped. "A full-spectrum analysis. Everything, temperature, displacement, electromagnetic signatures, biological density." "Why?" Elena met his eyes, and in that moment, Hale understood before she even answered, to evaluate what's worth taking. Hale's face drained of color. Before he could respond, a blinding white beam erupted from the sky, thin as a needle, silent as breath. It struck a distant mountain, the entire peak vaporized, not exploded, not shattered, vaporized, disintegrated into drifting white ash like snow. The shockwave hit seconds later, a deep, stomach-churning thud that sent dust rolling across the desert floor. Screams erupted from the towns below. Hale stared, shaking. "They're testing." "No." Elena forced the words out. "They're calibrating." Another beam shot down, this time hitting an empty stretch of sand. The ground liquefied, glowing orange, then cooled instantly into smooth black glass. More beams followed, precise, controlled, scientific, like an autopsy on the Earth itself. Then a sound, low, metallic, wavering, the same tone Elena had heard in her visions, only now the entire world heard it. The sky vibrated as the symbols above shifted into a single, unified pattern, an angular glyph that pulsed once, twice, and then stopped. Silence. Utter, impossible silence. Hale swallowed. "What does that mean?" Elena closed her eyes. "It means they finished scanning." "And now?" Elena looked at the horizon and saw movement. Not one object, not a few. Thousands, tiny silver constructs, like the ones from the valley, rose from the ground everywhere. From towns, fields, forests, roads, crawling out of cracks, climbing from drains, floating from the soil as if they had been sleeping beneath the earth for years. "Were they already here?" Hale whispered. Elena nodded numbly. Planted, hidden, waiting. The swarm lifted higher, merging into enormous formations, moving like schools of fish, like flocks of birds, like neurons firing in a cosmic brain. The sky lit with their metallic glow. Then the voice returned. Clear, neutral, final. "Phase 2. Commence." Elena felt her heart drop. Hale whispered the only question that mattered. "What's Phase 2? Elena turned to him, voice hollow. "Extraction." Part 5. Extraction Protocol. The swarms rose higher, thousands of metallic constructs moving with horrifying precision, forming spiraling columns that stretched into the darkness overhead. Each column pulsed. Each pulse sent a tremor through the air. A signal, a countdown. "Elena," Hale whispered, "we need to run." But Elena didn't move. She was watching the sky, watching as the massive veil, the structure covering the heavens, began to shift, not sliding or rotating, but unfolding. Petals of darkness peeling back to reveal something beneath it. A lattice. A lattice, a grid, a planetary-scale harvesting web. Lines of faint blue energy connected across the sky like glowing nerves. Each node pulsed rhythmically, syncing with the metallic swarms rising from the Earth. A global network. A synchronized system, designed for one purpose. "Elena," Hale said more urgently, grabbing her arm. "We need to get underground. Now." She snapped out of her trance, breath shaking. "Where? There's nowhere we can." A roar cut her off. Not from the sky. From behind them. Military vehicles, Humvees, armored transports, trucks with mounted antennas raced across the desert. Dust clouds billowed behind them. Sirens blared. Soldiers shouted orders over radios that crackled with static. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Hale's eyes widened. Looks like someone else got the message. A convoy screeched to a halt nearby. Soldiers leapt out, armed to the teeth. Rifles, EMP launchers, portable jammers. One of them, a commanding officer, spotted Elena and Hale and ran toward them. "You two, identify yourselves." Before they could answer, the sky flashed. Every soldier froze. Every engine died. Every radio went silent. Every head turned upward at the same moment, instinctively, helplessly. The extraction began. Thin beams, hundreds of them, shot downward from the grid, each one locking onto something. Some aimed at trees, some at water towers, some at soil, some at animals, some at humans. A soldier screamed as a beam enveloped him, not burning, not cutting, scanning. His body glowed from within, organs and bones momentarily visible like an X-ray. Then, the beam snapped off. The soldier collapsed, alive but unconscious. Another soldier wasn't so lucky. A second beam locked onto her, pulsed twice, and, in a flash of white, she was gone. Not vaporized, not disintegrated, extracted. Her gear clattered to the ground, falling into the dust like shed skin. Elena's heart nearly stopped. Oh my God. One by one, people across the desert were lifted, helpless, screaming, dragged upward like weightless dolls into the waiting grid. Hale grabbed Elena's hand. "We have to go!" They dove for the truck. The sky roared again. A beam targeted the vehicle, white hot, crackling with magnetic force. The truck lifted off the ground, metal groaning, windows shattering as it was pulled upward. Elena screamed. Hale yanked her away just in time, the truck rising into the air like a toy being taken by an invisible child. It disappeared in seconds. Elena crawled behind a boulder, shaking. "What do they want?" she cried. Hale crouched beside her, panting. "What do you think? Samples, resources, data, people." He trailed off, staring past her. Elena turned. A child, a small boy, no older than 7, stood alone in the open, crying, calling for his parents, lost and terrified. A beam flickered above him. "No!" Elena gasped. "No!" She sprinted before Hale could stop her. "Elena, get back!" She didn't listen. She reached the child, grabbed him, shielding him with her body. The beam descended. She braced. But instead of striking her, it stopped, hovering inches from her back, scanning her, reading her. Hale watched in horror as Elena's silhouette glowed. Bones, veins, memories flashing in strobing bursts across the sky's shifting symbols. The beam snapped off. Elena gasped, collapsing to her knees, clutching the child. "Elena!" Hale ran to her. "What did it do to you?" She shook her head slowly, tears falling. It saw everything. Everything. My memories, my thoughts, my fears, my potential," Hale swallowed. "And what did it decide?" Elena looked up at the lattice in the sky. The symbols shifted again, forming a new pattern. She somehow understood it. "It decided," she whispered, voice trembling, "that I'm not a target." "That's good, right?" Hale asked. "No," she said, shaking her head in terror. "It means they're not done with me." Before Hale could respond, a massive tremor shook the desert. The sky cracked open again, brighter, wider, deeper. The collector was returning. Phase 2 was only the beginning. Phase 3 had just begun. Cinematic Novel Part 6, The Eclipse Event. The tremor didn't stop. It built. A low vibration, like the Earth's bones were grinding beneath the surface. Sand rippled. Rocks danced. The air thickened with a static charge so intense Elena felt it in her teeth. Above them, the lattice brightened, not like lights turning on, but like an ancient machine waking up. A ring-shaped section of the grid rotated, slow at first, then faster, forming a spinning aperture. The sky dimmed as something colossal shifted behind it, something hiding there the entire time. Hale stared upward, breath gone. "That's not a ship," he whispered. "No," Elena agreed, voice trembling. "It's part of the sky." The aperture locked with a thundering boom that rolled across the desert. The child in Elena's arms sobbed against her jacket. A pillar of pure white dropped from the aperture to earth, slamming into the desert miles away like a meteor made of light. Another, then another, dozens. Each beam struck with seismic force, carving perfect circular craters into the ground. Dust clouds rose like atomic blossoms. "What are they doing?" Hale shouted over the thunder. Elena didn't answer, because she suddenly felt it. Not heard, not seen, felt. A pressure in her skull, a whisper under her skin, a sensation like someone opening a door inside her mind. Elena squeezed her eyes shut. "No, get out of my head." Hale grabbed her. "Elena, what's happening?" She gasped, eyes snapping open. "They're calibrating." "Calibrating what?" "Earth," she said. "Or us." Before Hale could respond, dozens of soldiers, those who hadn't been taken, ran toward them from the broken convoy. Some carried EMP packs. Others dragged wounded comrades. A sergeant approached Hale. "You two civilians? Get to the ridge, now." He pointed toward a line of boulders. "We're establishing a temporary defensive perimeter." Hale laughed breathlessly. "You think you can fight that?" "We can try to slow it down," the sergeant said. "Orders." Another tremor shook the ground. A second aperture opened beside the first, then a third. "Jesus Christ," Hale whispered. A soldier stumbled toward Elena, eyes unfocused, face pale. "Ma'am," he choked, "they're broadcasting something, some kind of auditory command." Elena stiffened. Command. She felt it too, a crawling sensation under her skin, threading into her veins, a pull, a direction, like something was calling her by name. Hale shook her shoulder. "Elena, stay with me." "I'm trying," she hissed. "They're reaching for something. Someone." A burst of static crackled through the air. All at once, every device, broken radios, disabled Humvees, ruined satellite phones flickered alive. A single tone played across all of them. Low, steady, ancient. A voice followed. Not human, not language, but every person heard something different. A soldier dropped to his knees, sobbing. "They're saying, it's Judgment Day." Another clutched her helmet. No, they're telling us to come home." A third backed away, horrified. "They're calling us livestock." Hale turned to Elena, afraid to ask. "What did they say to you?" Elena swallowed hard. "They said, you're ready." A chilling silence followed. Hale looked at her like she was becoming something he didn't recognize. "Elena, what does that mean?" But she didn't answer, because she couldn't. The lights in the sky pulsed, and for a moment Elena saw the pattern clearly. Not just lights, a map, a structure, a hierarchy. And for the first time, she understood it. A fracture of clarity, brief but overwhelming, ripped through her mind. Not memories, not visions, instructions. "Elena," Hale whispered. She stared toward the glowing horizon, her voice faint and horrified. "I know what they're building." Hale held his breath. "They're not invading," Elena said slowly. "They're upgrading." "Upgrading what?" She looked him directly in the eyes. "Us." Cinematic Sci-Fi Novel, Part 7. The canyon swallowed the night like a colossal iron maw, and the deeper they drove, the more the air itself seemed to hum. Low, steady, unnatural. June felt the vibration through the steering wheel first, then through her chest, as though her heartbeat were syncing with something older, larger, and very much awake. "Do you hear that?" she asked quietly. Orion didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the darkness ahead, where the canyon walls narrowed into a shadowed gate that no human hands had ever touched. Or so June had believed, until now. The hum grew louder, not mechanical, not natural, something in between, resonant, intentional, calling. A pale bluish mist curled across the ground as the truck rolled to a stop. The headlights pushed forward only a few meters before dissolving into the haze. "We go on foot," Orion said. June opened her door and froze. The mist recoiled from her boots, forming delicate spirals as though alive. Not reacting randomly, reacting to her. A shiver ran down her spine. "Orion, why is it doing that?" "It's not the mist," he said. "It's the frequency. The entire valley is responding to us." "Responding? How?" He looked at her, and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes, because something in there recognizes you. They moved together into the veil of light. The ground trembled faintly beneath each step, the hum rising and falling like breath. Then, suddenly, a fissure of white light tore open ahead, illuminating an enormous circular structure half buried in stone. June gasped. It wasn't a building, and it wasn't dead. It pulsed, slow, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a slumbering giant. What is that?" she whispered. Orion's voice trembled despite his control. A vessel, not crashed, not abandoned, waiting. Before she could react, the surface of the structure rippled, metal becoming liquid, edges softening, forming a doorway of blinding silver. A sound echoed through the canyon, not heard but felt. A voice, no language, no words, only an impression. "Enter." June stumbled back. No, I'm not stepping into an alien ship." "You already did," Orion said quietly. "The moment you came down this road, this place has been locked for over a century, but it opened tonight, and not for me." June's pulse hammered. "Why for me?" Orion hesitated. "Because the signal it sent into your dreams wasn't accidental." June's breath hitched. "Signal? What signal?" He inhaled slowly. "The nightmares you told me about, the lights, the pressure in your head. You thought it was stress." He shook his head. "It wasn't. It was a summons." The silver doorway widened. The hum intensified until it felt like her bones were vibrating. June pressed her hands against her ears, but the sound was coming from inside her skull. Her knees buckled. "June!" Orion lunged forward, catching her as she collapsed. Her vision warped, colors bending, edges smearing. And then something slid into her mind like a spear of ice. Not pain, memory, but not hers. A starless void, a tower of obsidian rising from endless water, a sky tearing open like fabric. Silhouettes, tall, slender, reaching down with hands of light. Then a voice, calm, ancient, echoing, "The bridge awakens, the bearer returns." June gasped, snapping back into herself as Orion steadied her. Her voice cracked. What was that?" Orion swallowed hard. "You don't remember, do you?" "Remember what, Orion?" He met her gaze. "The night you disappeared when you were 6. June's blood ran cold. "I never disappeared." "Yes," he said softly. "You did, for 7 minutes. No heartbeat, no pulse, no breath." He stepped back as the vessel pulsed brighter, bathing them in merciless silver. "And whatever took you," he pointed toward the glowing doorway, "just called you home." Cinematic Sci-Fi Novel, Part 8. June staggered backward until her spine pressed against the cold canyon wall. The rock felt warm, too warm, like something beneath the surface was heating the entire valley. "No," she whispered. "My parents told me it was a seizure, a medical episode. I never—" "They lied," Orion said. "Or they were told to lie." The silver doorway rippled again, brighter this time, almost impatient. June clenched her fists. "How do you know any of this? How do you know what happened to me?" Orion exhaled slowly, as if bracing himself. "Because I was there." The words hit her like a punch to the chest. "What?" "I was 12. My father worked for the observatory. He took me to your town that night because the instruments picked up an impossible signal originating exactly where you lived. At 2:14 a.m., every compass in the region spun in perfect circles. Electronics died. The sky turned the color of metal. He swallowed, eyes distant. And then you vanished. June shook her head violently. That's impossible. I would remember something like that. You were a child, he said gently, and whatever touched you, it erased itself from your conscious mind, but not completely. He pointed at the humming ground beneath them, because now it wants you to remember. A thunderous crack split the air. Shards of stone tumbled from the canyon walls as the vessel's glow intensified into a blinding halo. The hum wasn't a hum anymore. It was a chorus, layered and harmonic, vibrating the world itself. Orion pulled June close. We need to move, now. But the moment she tried to run, the mist surged upward, swirling around her ankles like living chains. She stumbled, falling to one knee. June! Orion reached for her, but the mist didn't touch him. It parted around his legs as if ignoring him completely. It only held her. The realization sent a chill down her spine. It's choosing, she whispered. It's choosing me. The vessel pulsed, one long, resonant heartbeat, and the mist lifted her gently off the ground. Not violently, almost respectfully. June screamed, kicking at empty air. Orion, don't let it take me. He grabbed her wrist hard, harder than he ever had. Their arms trembled between them as the mist pulled her upward and Orion dragged downward. June, listen to me, he said through clenched teeth. If this thing wanted to kill you, it would have done it when you were 6. But it didn't. It sent you back. Her eyes flooded with terror. Back for what? For this moment. Her grip began to slip as the mist tightened around her, pulling her toward the silver doorway. The light swallowed her legs, then her waist. Orion, don't let go! I'm not, he shouted. But the force grew stronger, too strong for any human to resist. June felt her fingers sliding from his, their last contact burning like fire. Orion! June! Their hands tore apart. June was pulled into the doorway in a flash of blinding white. Silence fell, a vast, weightless silence. June opened her eyes and found herself standing in a colossal chamber that felt alive. The walls were metal, yet they shifted like muscle. Ribs of luminous energy pulsed overhead, casting long shadows across the floor, and floating before her, a figure. Tall, slender, limbs elongated, skin like liquid silver, eyes deep and starless, reflecting universes she couldn't name. June froze. The figure raised one hand, slow, graceful, ancient, and for the first time, June heard its voice clearly, not in dreams, not in echoes, but directly in her mind. We returned to complete the bond. Her breath trembled. What bond? The figure drifted closer. You were marked long before your birth. June's pulse stopped. What do you mean, before my birth? The figure's eyes glowed brighter, as if amused. You are not only their child. It paused. You are ours. June felt the floor tilt beneath her. No, that's not true. I'm human. The chamber darkened, lights sinking into the walls, and the being whispered, not cinematic sci-fi novel. Part 9. June staggered backward, even though her feet weren't touching solid ground. The chamber felt infinite, no corners, no edges, just smooth, living metal that pulsed like a heartbeat surrounding her. No, her voice cracked. That can't be true. I have parents, a family, a normal life. The being tilted its head, the motion eerily graceful. Your parents raised you. They did not create you. A cold wave swept through her chest. What are you saying? The being drifted closer until she could see her distorted reflection across its fluid silver skin. You are a convergence, June Hale. A bridge between species. June shook her head so fast her vision blurred. That doesn't even make sense. This world was not ready for us, the being continued, ignoring her protest. But you were engineered to open the way. The room dimmed, then brightened with each syllable, like the ship itself breathed in rhythm with the creature. June whispered, engineered? A soft hum answered. One of the walls dissolved into mist, revealing what looked like a massive star map. Spiraling galaxies, coordinates she couldn't read, and a glowing point far off center. Her. It was unmistakably centered on her. The being extended a hand toward the map. You were designed with a purpose, to connect two civilizations that can no longer remain apart. The map shifted, zooming into Earth. A lattice of glowing lines wrapped around the planet like a web, converging on one single point in Utah, the canyon, the place she disappeared. June felt nausea swirl in her gut. If that's true, if I was made for this, why don't I remember anything? Why let me live a normal life at all? The being's voice lowered into something almost mournful, because the human world would have devoured you if they knew the truth. You were hidden, protected, allowed to grow. June laughed, a sharp, shaky sound. Protected? You call my nightmares protection? You call the seizures, the lights, the missing time. Those were awakening cycles. June went silent. Your biology is changing, the being said. Your human mind is struggling to process the integration, but soon you will see as we see. The floor beneath her pulsed with light. A low vibration crawled up her legs, then her spine, then her skull. June clutched her head. Stop, 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 stop! The being raised a hand, and the pain eased instantly. You are not in danger, June. You are becoming what you were always meant to be. June's heart pounded. I don't want to be anything. I want my life back. The being regarded her with something like patience or pity. You cannot return unchanged. A beat of silence. Then let me go, June whispered. The chamber dimmed. We cannot. Why not? Because behind her, a panel slid open, and Orion stumbled inside, coughing as if he'd been thrown through the door by force. June. She froze. Orion's eyes widened with pure terror when he saw the being behind her. He rushed forward, grabbing her shoulders. June, God, are you okay? What is this thing? The being did not move, but its voice reverberated through the chamber like thunder. The convergence is incomplete. The human must not interfere. Orion stepped in front of June, shielding her. Back off. June grabbed his arm. Orion, why are you here? How did you get in? He pointed behind him, breathless. The doorway, after it took you, it just pulled me in too. I didn't think, I couldn't let you go alone. The being lowered its head slightly. Emotional entanglement detected. June tensed. What does that mean? The being responded without hesitation. The human's attachment jeopardizes the transition. Orion glared. She's not going anywhere with you. A vibration trembled through the chamber. Low, dangerous. He must be removed. The floor opened beneath Orion's feet. June screamed, grabbing him as he fell, but this time she was the one pulling, and the force dragging him downward was beyond anything human. June, don't, Orion yelled. Let go. You'll fall with me. But she held tighter, tears streaming. I'm not losing you. The being's voice rolled through the chamber like a storm. Choose, June Hale. Her breath froze. The path of your creation or the human you cling to. The chamber darkened. The star map flickered. The ship itself seemed to wait. Orion's fingers slipped. June was forced to decide. Now. Entirely. Shadows in the signal. The room was dim, bathed only by the glow of multiple monitors flickering with static and distorted images. Agent Mara Collins stared intently at the screen, showing a live feed from the remote desert site, the place where the strange electromagnetic pulse had been detected. Sir, the signal's intensifying. It's trying to communicate, Mara said, fingers flying over the keyboard. Her superior, Director Hawthorne, leaned in, face tight with concern. Are we sure it's not just some kind of equipment malfunction? No, it's structured, repeating patterns, definitely not random. Outside, the desert night hummed with an eerie quiet. Somewhere beneath the sand, something waited. Suddenly, the monitors all went dark. Damn it, Mara swore. Then the screens flickered back, but the images were no longer from their cameras. Instead, strange symbols danced across the displays, glowing with an otherworldly light. What the hell? Hawthorne whispered. A new message appeared, in English. We are here. We see you. Prepare. Mara's heart pounded. Prepare for what? The silence that followed was heavier than the desert night. The arrival. The desert air was still, almost unnaturally so, as dawn crept over the horizon. Mara and the team gathered at the edge of the site, eyes scanning the barren landscape. Suddenly, a low hum began to ripple through the ground, a deep, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through every bone. The sand near the center of the site shifted, swirling upwards like a miniature whirlwind. Out of the dust, a sleek, metallic craft emerged, smooth and seamless, unlike anything manufactured by human hands. It hovered silently, its surface reflecting the rising sun. A hatch opened with a soft hiss, and from within stepped a figure, tall, slender, with eyes that shimmered like liquid silver. Mara swallowed her fear. Hello? The figure tilted its head. We come in peace. We have observed your world for centuries. Director Hawthorne gripped his notebook tightly, trying to steady his voice. Why now? Why reveal yourselves? The alien's eyes seemed to pierce through him. Because the time has come for your kind to learn, to understand that you are not alone. Behind them, the desert stretched endlessly, but for the first time, the vastness felt less isolating. Mara took a shaky breath. What do you want from us? The figure's lips parted, and a voice like the wind spoke softly, yet clearly. To share knowledge, to guide, to protect, but above all, to prepare. The message. The figure stepped forward, and a holographic projection shimmered into existence between them, an image of stars, galaxies, and worlds beyond imagination. Mara's eyes widened as constellations rearranged themselves, forming patterns she had never seen before. The alien spoke. Our civilization spans the cosmos, guardians of balance and knowledge. We have watched as your species grew, curious, resilient, but reckless. Director Hawthorne glanced at Mara, tension evident in his jaw. What kind of recklessness? Your wars, your destruction of the environment, your ignorance of the fragile thread that connects all life. Mara felt a surge of guilt. So what now? How do we change? The figure's silver eyes softened. By learning, by listening, by opening your minds to possibilities beyond your science, your politics. A soft pulse emitted from the alien's chest, an invitation, a beacon. Suddenly, the ground beneath them glowed with a network of light, like the roots of a great tree. Together, the figure said, we can usher in a new era. Mara reached out hesitantly toward the light. Her fingertips tingled as knowledge began to flow, ancient, profound, humbling. She realized the journey was only beginning. The awakening days after the encounter, the world seemed to hold its breath. Mara sat in her small apartment, staring at the data streaming across her laptop. Scientific breakthroughs, energy formulas, and cosmic maps that defied everything humanity knew. Her phone buzzed, a message from Hawthorne. Meeting at HQ, urgent. At the headquarters, the mood was tense but charged with cautious hope. We're ready to share what we learned, Mara said, facing the assembled scientists and officials. Hawthorne nodded. This could change everything, if we choose to listen. The alien knowledge wasn't just information, it was a call to evolve, to rethink humanity's place in the universe. But not everyone agreed. Across the globe, whispers of fear, conspiracy, and control began to spread. Would humanity embrace the invitation, or would old fears and divisions win? Mara clenched her fists. We have a choice. The hardest part isn't the truth, it's what we do with it. She looked up, eyes burning with resolve. The future starts now. Shadows of doubt. Not everyone welcomed the revelations with open arms. In a dimly lit room deep within a government complex, Director Calder watched the news reports with a grim expression. The public isn't ready, he muttered. This knowledge could destabilize everything. Governments, economies, belief systems. His advisor leaned in, voice low. Then we control the narrative, limit the spread, silence the dissenters. Calder nodded slowly. Prepare the contingency plan. Meanwhile, Mara and Hawthorne worked tirelessly to build a coalition. Scientists, activists, truth seekers, people willing to stand for transparency. But threats began arriving. Anonymous warnings, sabotage of research facilities, even attacks on key witnesses. Mara knew the real battle was just beginning. Fear thrives in darkness, she said to Hawthorne one evening. We have to be the light. Hawthorne's eyes, ancient yet hopeful, met hers. Then let us shine. The world stood at a crossroads, between ignorance and enlightenment, fear and hope. The question was, which path would humanity choose? The gathering storm winter was receding, but the tension only grew thicker. Mara and Hawthorne convened a secret meeting in a remote cabin, far from prying eyes. Around the table sat experts, astrophysicists, ex-military personnel, journalists, and even former intelligence agents, all united by one goal, to expose the truth without igniting chaos. We have to anticipate their moves, Mara said, spreading out maps and documents. They want control. We want freedom. Hawthorne tapped a weathered file. Their surveillance reaches everywhere. Satellite arrays, drones, even infiltrators. One of the ex-agents, a woman named Lila, nodded grimly. They've already tried to discredit our sources. We need secure channels. Mara clenched her fists. Then we build a network. Encrypted, decentralized. People need the truth, but safely. As the meeting dispersed, a faint hum buzzed outside, a drone gliding silently through the trees. Leela's hand went to her sidearm. They know we're here. The storm was coming, and this time, it wouldn't be just words. shadows in the sky. The drone circled overhead, its cold eye scanning the forest canopy with infrared precision. Inside the cabin, Mara and her team scrambled to erase their digital footprints, jamming signals and burning hard drives. But the drone was relentless. Suddenly, the windows shattered. A barrage of shots ripped through the walls, sending splinters flying. Hawthorne shouted, "Scatter! Get to the escape routes!" Mara grabbed a sat phone and bolted for the back door, adrenaline fueling her legs. Outside, the forest felt alien, shadows twisting unnaturally. She ducked behind a fallen log, breath ragged, heart pounding. From the darkness, a low rumble echoed. Not mechanical, but organic. Eyes, glowing faintly, emerged between the trees. A presence both terrifying and mesmerizing. Mara froze, caught between hunters and something far older. The truth was no longer hidden in shadow. It was alive. The ancient watchers Mara's breath caught as the glowing eyes advanced, revealing towering forms cloaked in iridescent scales that shimmered like starlight. Their movements were fluid, graceful, yet filled with an ancient power that reverberated through the forest floor. Hawthorne's voice crackled in her earpiece, tense but calm. "Mara, those aren't human. Get back to the cabin now!" But something in Mara held her still. A strange recognition, a pull she couldn't explain. One of the beings stepped forward, its gaze locking with hers. A voice echoed, not through sound, but through her mind. "We watch. We wait. You are ready." Before she could respond, the beings retreated into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of glowing dust. Hawthorne's urgency returned. "No time to lose. They'll be back, and so will the hunters." Mara swallowed her fear. The world she knew was shifting beneath her feet, and she was at the center of it all. The gathering storm. The cold wind whispered through the trees as Mara raced back to the cabin, her heart pounding like a drumbeat of impending war. Inside, Hawthorne was already packing gear, satellite phones, encrypted drives, weapons she hoped they'd never use. "We can't wait for them to come to us," he said, eyes sharp. Mara nodded, adrenaline surging. "We need allies, anyone who's not afraid to see the truth." Outside, the night sky was pierced by streaks of light, unidentified objects darting silently above the treetops. They weren't alone. The Watchers had called a warning, and the real fight was just beginning. Unseen allies. At dawn, Mara and Hawthorne set out toward the nearest town, a hub rumored to harbor others like them, scientists, journalists, insiders who'd glimpsed the veil behind the official stories. The forest seemed to hold its breath, shadows stretching long and heavy. "Trust no one," Hawthorne muttered, eyes scanning every movement. Mara clenched her jaw. "We don't have the luxury of paranoia, not anymore." Hours later, they reached a small diner, the kind where secrets mixed with coffee steam and whispered conversations. A figure waited inside, older, weathered, eyes sharp and kind. "You're not the first to come seeking truth," the stranger said, voice low, "but maybe the first who can change it." Mara's pulse quickened. Allies, maybe hope. The hidden network. Inside the dimly lit diner, Mara and Hawthorne sat across from the stranger, who introduced herself as Dr. Evelyn Grant, a former government scientist turned whistleblower. She slid a folder across the table. "What you're up against is bigger than just UFOs or aliens. It's a web of lies, government agencies, private contractors, and shadowy figures profiting off keeping the truth hidden." Mara opened the folder, revealing photos, transcripts, and encrypted messages. Hawthorne leaned in. "We need to expose them, but carefully. One wrong move, and they'll silence us." Dr. Grant nodded gravely. "There's a network, people like you, like me, who share pieces of the puzzle. We call it the Orion Collective." Mara's eyes flickered with determination. "Then we join it, and bring the truth to light." The Orion Collective, Mara, Hawthorne, and Dr. Grant found themselves in an unassuming warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Inside, dozens of screens flickered, displaying satellite feeds, intercepted communications, and cryptic symbols. A man stepped forward, his face half hidden in shadows. "Welcome to the Orion Collective. We've been waiting for you." He introduced himself as Elias Kane, the collective's leader. "You've seen fragments, but the full picture is a global operation. Governments covering up extraterrestrial presence while exploiting alien tech." Mara swallowed hard. "Why now? Why reach out to us?" Kane smiled grimly. "Because the balance is tipping. The alien presence is growing more visible, and the people deserve to know." Hawthorne's fingers twitched near his concealed weapon. "What's the plan?" Elias's eyes burned with resolve. We expose the truth, piece by piece, and prepare humanity for what's coming. The first leak. Days later, Mara sat before a secured terminal, heart-pounding. The Orion Collective had given her access to files so classified they made her head spin. Images of strange crafts, testimonies from whistleblowers, intercepted alien communications decoded by unknown technologies. Her fingers hesitated, then began uploading encrypted packets to a network of independent journalists around the world. The first leak. Suddenly, an alert flashed. Warning, intrusion detected. She froze. Outside the warehouse, distant sirens wailed. "Looks like they found us," Elias said grimly. Mara exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of the desk. Then it's game on. The escape. The warehouse doors thundered as heavy boots pounded the concrete. Mara and Elias exchanged a glance. No time to hesitate. "Split up," Elias commanded. "Draw them away." Mara nodded, sprinting toward the fire escape, heart hammering in her chest. Gunshots echoed. She vaulted down the metal stairs and weaving through narrow alleys slick with rain. Behind her, Elias's voice shouted, "Mara, keep going! Don't look back!" She didn't. The hidden signal, Mara ducked into a dimly lit alley, sliding behind a stack of crates. Her breath came fast. The city's neon glow barely pierced the thick fog rolling in. She pulled out the encrypted communicator Elias had given her. A faint pulse blinked on the screen, an incoming transmission. Hands trembling, she decrypted the message. "Safe house compromised, extraction delayed. Repeat, extraction delayed." A cold shiver ran down her spine. They weren't just hunting Elias, they were hunting anyone who helped him. Suddenly, footsteps approached. Mara's heart seized. A shadow loomed, voice low and urgent. "Mara, it's me, Elias." She exhaled, relief flooding her veins. "Where are you?" "Follow the river. I'm moving to the docks." The chase wasn't over. Night at the docks. The salty breeze whipped through the abandoned docks as Mara arrived, heart pounding. Shipping containers loomed like silent giants under the pale moonlight. Elias stepped out of the shadows, his massive frame tense but eyes sharp. "We don't have much time," he whispered. "They're closing in." Mara handed him a small device, a jammer she'd crafted to disrupt tracking signals. "Can this keep them off your trail?" He nodded. "For a while, but they have resources beyond anything we imagined." A sudden roar echoed nearby. Flashlights swept the area. "They're here," Mara said, gripping Elias's arm. Together, they melted into the labyrinth of containers, the hunt renewed beneath the stars. The signal, hidden beneath the containers, Mara fiddled with the jammer. Beads of sweat ran down her temple despite the cold night. "Elias, how long can you hold them off?" she whispered. He tightened his fists. "As long as you need, but the longer they search, the closer they get." Suddenly, a sharp beep came from the device. Signal detected. "Someone's trying to track us," Mara said, panic rising. Elias's eyes narrowed. "We need to move. Now." They darted through shadows, footsteps pounding behind them. A drone spotlight illuminated the path ahead. "Split," Elias commanded. Heart racing, Mara dove behind a stack of crates, praying to stay unseen. The last stand. The dawn crept slowly over the horizon, painting the Montana forest in pale gold. The air was thick with silence, heavy with anticipation. Clara's breath was steady, but her heart thundered like a war drum. Beside her, Elias stood tall, his scarred figure silhouetted against the waking world. They were surrounded, agents closing in, weapons drawn, the cold steel of fate pressed against their backs. But this time they weren't running. Clara stepped forward, her voice calm but unwavering. "I won't let you take him." The lead agent smirked, cold and unyielding. "It's over, Miss Hayes. You know what he is. You can't protect what's not meant to be." Elias's eyes burned with fierce light. "I am not mistake. I am not weapon. I am alive, because of Clara." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and rain, the heartbeat of the wild echoing in their ears. Clara reached out, taking Elias's hand, a bridge between two worlds, human and impossible. Together, they stood against the darkness, and in that moment, the world held its breath. Epilogue. Months later, the headlines had changed. New rights for synthetic life, they read. Man and monster, a love that changed everything. Clara and Elias weren't just survivors, they were symbols. Symbols of hope, of love, and the truth that no matter where you come from, what you've been called, everyone deserves a name, a home, a chance to live. And together, they found theirs.